Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Watch the weekly close. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, Bitcoin right now is trading for a very modest 60.4K. And I understand that some people are somewhat upset because we watched it go all the way up to 67, and now it has come back down to a very palsy $60,000 after being at 40K just a few weeks ago. But there are some interesting things to watch on this weekly close. Now, I mean, this isn't the most important weekly close in the world. I'm not trying to give that impression, but it is interesting to look at because back in March and April and even May, we saw weekly closes that were just shy of 60K, right? They were always just shy of 60K. Last week, we closed at 61.5K. And we know that we had this wick that took us all the way up to 67. Now, since that time, we've come back down, and the resistance that we had over here for 3 months, we are now trying to at least hold it as support, right? We're at least putting up a fight. And you can see that over the last few days, the bulls are trying to hold the line at 60K. I mean, only time will tell if they're ultimately able to prevail. If we go look at the daily time frame, you can see what I'm talking about, right? The bulls are trying to hold the line here at 60K. And remember, this is the prior highs when looking at the weekly time frame earlier this year. So a point for the bulls would happen if we were able to get a weekly close above $60,000 after a pullback. Now, I'm not saying that means we're going to immediately head off to the races, but it would look good if we can hold that level. You'll note that, we had a drop all the way from 60K down to 30K, back up to, to the 50s. We spent some time in the 50s, back down to the 40s, now up to the 60s. We're spending a lot of time at these levels. I mean, even at 20K, we spent a lot of time at 20K, right? If we go back and look, we spent some time at 20K, kind of consolidating at 20K. We spent some time over here at 30K, some more time over here at 30K, and we've spent a lot of time at some of these other levels. I mean, 60K, we spent a ton of time at. 50K, here we are at 60K again. If I were to speculate, I would argue we're probably going to spend more time. I mean, at some of these, even at like say 70K, 80K, 90K, I doubt these milestones go down without a fight. We can always overshoot them, but then a lot of times we come back down and test them. Now, that doesn't mean we have to test every single one, but you can see so far we are spending a lot of time at all these major milestones en route to what we hope is at least a $100,000 Bitcoin. And again, I do think Bitcoin will exceed $100,000 this cycle. So that will be the area to watch. The line in the sand to watch, I believe, would be, let's see if we can have a weekly close above $60,000. Now, if we don't, it doesn't mean that the cycle is over by any stretch of the imagination. I already see bears parading around like, calling it a double top and whatnot. And look, here's the thing. A lot of the bears, originally they said 51K would be the top, then 53, then 57, then it was 60. Now they're calling it a double top. The problem I find is that, a lot of them lack a lot of conviction when it comes to their predictions, and they simply move the goalpost until they're right. It's not hard to say that an asset will go down because eventually you will be right. Eventually, people calling for stock market crashes will be right? I mean, it's not hard to eventually be right, but a key component to being right is also timing it. It's not hard to say that an asset will drop in value at some point in time. If you give it enough time, of course, you can claim victory. But what is that victory worth if you missed a 300 or 400% move in between that? A lot of people that are calling for 70 or 80% drops at this stage, what will likely happen, which I do think they'll eventually be proven wrong. What I think will happen is they'll just keep calling for it, right? They'll be there every step of the way to tell you what their new prediction is on the final market cycle peak, and they'll be wrong a lot. Eventually they'll be right, and it'll correct, 70% probably. But at that point, if you've been calling for it for a year or something, or since April, if you've been calling for it forever, what is it worth if it means you missed out on everything that happened in between that? So I see a lot of people get scared by some predictions that people put out and say, Bitcoin's going back to 10K and whatnot. Look, I don't think it's worth your time. I really don't think Bitcoin's going back to $10,000. I know the majority don't believe that, but I think there are a few vocal people out there that keep calling for much lower prices for Bitcoin. And I just want to say, look at how they've been wrong so far. Look at how many times they've been wrong so far. So what makes you think their next prediction is going to be right? The truth is, no one really knows exactly what Bitcoin's going to do today, tomorrow, or next week. Or we don't know. We speculate on what we think's going to happen, but at the end of the day, I think most people are going to get it wrong. There's going to be a few people that maybe they can claim they got it right, but even those people that claim they got it right, they were probably still wrong many times before they actually got it right. So just keep that in mind. No one actually knows exactly what's going to happen. We can put out our best dubious speculation though. Okay, so I would still say watching 60K, watch for a weekly close above 60K. If we get it, it's a point for the bulls. If not, and we end up coming back down below 60K, more than just say 59.5, let's say we actually pull back to the mid 50s or something, there are some other areas we can watch to potentially find support. Remember, this is an uptrend, right? We've talked about this. We're technically in an uptrend, and there's still tons of wiggle room in this uptrend as well. I mean, we're still near the top of it. It's possible. It's certainly possible that we break above. I would say it's more likely to break above the uptrend than to break below it. But right now we are in an uptrend, and we've seen a low at 30K or 29K, and then all the way up at 53, and then all the way down at 39 to 40K. So this was around 29K, right? So this was 29. And then this one, I mean, we had a wick to below 40K, so let's just call it 39K, right? This was 39K. That was our test where everyone got super scared again. There was a lot of fear over here, just like there was back at 29K, okay? And I think, the only way to bring sort of that fear back would probably be if we went back to 49K, which I don't even think it's not a necessity. It's certainly not a necessity. But if it happened, it's not like we still couldn't be in an uptrend, right? Even if we went to $49,000, which I would not be banking on. I certainly wouldn't be banking on a $49,000 Bitcoin. But even if we did go to that level, it's still technically an uptrend as long as we continue bouncing higher. So I look at this and say, the move that we're in still looks extremely bullish. We've pulled back, 10%, 11% maybe from the top. Let's see. If we take a measured move here down to the current levels, we're 10 or 11% down, right? No one cares about 10 or 11%. So nothing too crazy. If we take a bar pattern and just sort of overlay what we've done so far since that move off 29K and just sort of shift it over, I don't think this is going to continue to play out exactly forever. But I mean, so far it's done pretty well. And if it were to continue, then maybe by the end of October, maybe like October 28th or something, we could see another push back up and maybe even get to 70K by the end of the month if we continue to emulate the prior move from 29 to 53K. Note that if that move were to continue to emulate up to this point, it could go to all the way to the 74, 75K by mid-November, all right? And if it does continue to do that, and it continues to follow what the last one did, then maybe we would get another low, but then that low could end up being maybe just below the current prices today. So there's a lot of reasons to look at Bitcoin, and of course you can bring your bearish bias to the table, you can bring your bullish bias to the table. If you bring all information to the table, you can understand why some people might be bearish, some people might be bullish. But I think all things considered, Bitcoin looks a lot more bullish than it does bearish, right? I mean, of course, if you pull up every indicator known to man, maybe you can find a couple things to say, all right, maybe that's not the most bullish thing. Mainly I'm thinking about people calling for a double top, right? I mean, we've seen double top patterns in assets before. I don't think that's the case here. I think if you consider everything, you look at on-chain data, you look at the fact that a lot of institutions are still pouring in. I mean, they're launching ETFs. I mean, they're futures ETFs, really, so don't get too carried away. But retail FOMO isn't even here, right? I mean, like, this isn't even retail FOMO. Like, normally when you see market cycle peaks, you would see retail FOMO and then pouring in money, in a very irresponsible manner. The daily views I'm getting right now are still incredibly low. I mean, like, they were a lot higher back in earlier this year. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, I don't even think there's that much new retail FOMO here. I mean, I think a lot of the people that are here at 60K are probably the same people that were here at 30K and 40K and 50K. In fact, I would argue, as I've said before, I think the peak to the cycle is over 100K, and it might be a push to 100K that gets new retail to FOMO in. Okay, so I'm not seeing retail FOMO at this point. What I am seeing is a technical uptrend and people getting a little bit too upset over relatively inconsequential moves. I mean, even if we went down to 50K, who cares? I mean, I'm not even thinking we're going to go back to that level. Like, I think it's more likely that we don't. But even if we did, who cares? So let's just take things one step at a time. Watch for the weekly close. Let's see if it's above 60K. If it is, then maybe we're building out 60K as support on the weekly time frame. If we close below 60K and we head back down to the mid 50s or something, hey, we're still in an uptrend. We still have a ton of wiggle room and things are still looking pretty good for Bitcoin. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe. Really do appreciate everyone subscribing. It means a lot. Make sure you check out the Telegram channel. We also do have the Into the Cryptoverse NFT. We are going to just keep that open until the end of the month. So if you want to pick one up, there's 3 of them. 3 different sets. One of the sets is sold out. There's 2 other sets. One of them has like 60 or something left. The other one has plenty. So make sure you guys check those out. Any of them not sold by the end of the month, we'll just go ahead and burn just to go ahead and get rid of that remaining supply. But anyways, make sure you guys subscribe, click the bell icon, turn on notifications, check out the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com, and I will see you next time. Bye.